Tiana Jackson stood outside Le Crystal restaurant, her heart beating fast. This was the fanciest place in town. The tall glass doors sparkled in the evening light. People in expensive clothes walked in and out. Tiana had waited 3 months for this night. She saved money from every paycheck. She wanted to celebrate her big promotion at work. Tiana checked her phone one more time. Yes, her reservation was for 7:30 p.m. She looked at her watch. It was 7:25 p.m. Perfect timing. She had picked out her best blue dress for tonight. The color reminded her of the ocean on a clear day. Her mother always said blue brought good luck. Tiana hoped her mother was right. Taking a deep breath, Tiana pushed open the heavy door and stepped inside. The restaurant smelled like good food and expensive perfume. Soft music played in the background. The lights were low, with small candles on each table. Everything looked perfect. Tiana walked up to the front desk where a thin man in a black suit stood. He looked at her from head to toe. His smile disappeared quickly. "Good evening," Tiana said with a bright smile. "I have a reservation for one at 7:30. The name is Jackson. Tiana Jackson." The man barely looked at his computer screen. "I don't see your name here," he said coldly. "That's strange," Tiana said, still keeping her smile. "I made the reservation online. I even got a confirmation email." She took out her phone and showed him the email. "See, right here. Tiana Jackson. Today at 7:30 p.m. The man glanced at her phone. "There must be some mistake," he said. "We are fully booked tonight." Just then, a white couple walked in behind Tiana. The man at the desk looked past her and smiled widely at them. "Good evening. Do you have a reservation?" "Yes, under Thompson," the man said. The desk man typed something quickly. "Ah, here you are. Right this way, please." He grabbed 2 menus and stepped around Tiana as if she wasn't there. Tiana's face felt hot. She had seen this before, too many times. But she had the email. She had proof. "Excuse me," she called after him. "I'm still waiting to be seated. I have a reservation." The desk man turned around slowly. Other people in the restaurant were starting to look at them. "Like I said, we don't have your reservation. Perhaps you made it for another day, or another restaurant." His voice was louder now. "I'd like to speak to the manager, please," Tiana said firmly. She wasn't going to leave. Not after saving up for months. Not after working so hard for her promotion. The desk man's face tightened. "Wait here," he said, and walked away. Tiana stood in the entrance, feeling everyone's eyes on her. A few minutes later, a tall man with gray hair walked over. He wore an expensive suit and a name tag that said, "Manager." "Is there a problem?" he asked, not looking directly at Tiana. Tiana explained about her reservation. She showed him the email too. The manager barely looked at it. "I'm sorry, but we have no table for you tonight," he said. "My staff has already informed you. We are fully booked." Just then, another couple walked in. The manager turned to them with a smile. "Do you have a reservation?" "No, we just thought we'd try our luck," the woman said. "Let me see what I can do," the manager said warmly. He checked his computer. "We can fit you in. Follow me, please." Tiana couldn't believe what she was seeing. Her hands began to shake. "So you have room for people without reservations, but not for me with one." The manager's face hardened. "I think it would be best if you found somewhere more suitable," he said, gesturing toward the door. "This is a high-class establishment." His meaning was clear. Tiana felt her chest tighten. She wanted to shout, to demand justice. But years of experience had taught her when fighting would only make things worse. With as much dignity as she could gather, she turned and walked out, feeling the stares of everyone in the restaurant following her. Tiana walked slowly down the street, her head held high even as tears threatened to spill. The cool night air hit her face. The beautiful blue dress that had made her feel so special now felt heavy on her shoulders. Her special night was ruined. She reached a small bench at a bus stop and sat down. Her legs felt weak. Her phone showed it was only 7:45 p.m. The night was still young, but Tiana felt tired, like she had been fighting all day. "Excuse me," a voice called from behind. Tiana turned to see a couple walking toward her. The woman had curly red hair and wore a green dress. The man was tall with glasses and a kind face. Tiana recognized them from the restaurant. They had been sitting near the front desk. "I'm Sophia," the woman said. "And this is my husband, Martin. We saw what happened in there." Tiana wiped her eyes quickly. "It's fine. I'm used to it," she said, though the pain in her voice showed it was not fine at all. "No, it's not fine," Martin said firmly. "We've eaten at Le Crystal many times. We've seen this happen before." "What do you mean?" Tiana asked. Sophia sat down next to Tiana. "We're food critics for the City Times magazine. We review restaurants, and Le Crystal has been getting worse lately. The food is still good, but the way they treat people has changed. The owner, Raymond Wilson, is a good man," Martin added, "but he's been away for the past few months. The new manager seems to be choosing who can eat there." "Choosing based on what?" Tiana asked, though she already knew the answer. "Based on how people look," Sophia said sadly. "Based on the color of their skin." Tiana nodded slowly. She had felt it the moment she walked in. The way the man at the desk looked at her. The way the manager wouldn't meet her eyes. "We've been collecting stories," Martin said. "People who made reservations but were turned away. People who were seated at bad tables near the kitchen. People who waited hours while others were served right away. They need to be stopped," Sophia said. "But we need more proof. We need people to speak up." Tiana looked at them. Could she trust these strangers? Their eyes seemed honest. Their anger seemed real. "What are you asking me to do?" Tiana asked. "We'd like to hear your full story," Martin said. "With your permission, we want to write about what happened tonight, and we want to talk to Raymond when he gets back." Tiana thought about her job. She worked hard to become a team leader at her company. Would speaking out cause problems? But then she thought about other people like her, saving up for special nights only to be turned away at the door. "Okay," Tiana said finally. "I'll tell you what happened." They talked for nearly an hour. Tiana told them everything, from making the reservation to being told to find somewhere more suitable. Sophia took notes while Martin recorded the conversation on his phone, with Tiana's permission. "Thank you," Sophia said when they finished. "This is important. Can we have your phone number? We'll let you know what happens next." Tiana gave them her contact information. For the first time since leaving the restaurant, she felt a small spark of hope. Maybe something good could come from this bad night. As they said goodbye, Martin handed Tiana a business card. "One more thing," he said. "Raymond Wilson is coming back tomorrow. We're going to send him everything we have, including what happened to you tonight. Do you think he'll care?" Tiana asked. "We've known Raymond for years," Sophia said. "He built that restaurant from nothing. His own mother faced discrimination at restaurants when he was a child. That's why he opened Le Crystal, to create a place where everyone would be treated with respect. If anyone will care, it's Raymond," Martin added. Tiana watched them walk away, the business card firm in her hand. She didn't know what would happen next, but something told her this wasn't over. The night that was supposed to be her celebration had turned into something else, something bigger. Tiana slept poorly that night. She tossed and turned, dreaming of cold stairs and closed doors. When her alarm rang at 6:30 a.m., she felt tired but pushed herself to get ready for work. Her promotion celebration might have been ruined, but she still had a job to do. As she got dressed, she thought about Sophia and Martin. Would they really talk to the restaurant owner? Or were they just being nice to make her feel better? Tiana wasn't sure, but their business card sat on her kitchen table. It looked real enough. After a quick breakfast, Tiana checked her makeup one last time and headed for the door. That's when she heard it, the sound of a car pulling up outside her apartment building. Living on the first floor meant she could hear most things happening on the street. Curious, Tiana peeked through her curtains. A large black SUV had parked right in front of her building. It was shiny and expensive looking, with dark windows that hid whoever was inside. For a moment, Tiana felt a small flash of fear. Who would come to her neighborhood in such a fancy car? The driver's door opened, and a man stepped out. He was tall and well-dressed in a dark blue suit. He looked to be in his 50s, with salt and pepper hair cut short and neat. The man looked around, checking the building numbers. Then he walked straight toward Tiana's building. Tiana stepped back from the window. Her heart began to beat faster. Could this have something to do with last night? That seemed impossible. How would anyone know where she lived? The doorbell rang, making Tiana jump. She stood frozen for a moment, unsure what to do. It rang again. Taking a deep breath, Tiana walked to the door and looked through the peephole. It was the man from the SUV. Up close, she could see he had a kind face with small worry lines around his eyes. "Who is it?" Tiana called through the door. "My name is Raymond Wilson," the man said. "I'm the owner of La Crystal restaurant. I believe you had a difficult experience at my establishment last night." Tiana's mouth fell open in surprise. So Sophia and Martin had contacted him already. But how did he find her address? As if reading her thoughts, the man spoke again. "Martin and Sophia Reeves gave me your phone number. I called your workplace to find you, and your colleague mentioned you hadn't left for work yet. They gave me your address. I hope that's okay. I needed to speak with you as soon as possible." Tiana hesitated. Should she open the door to this stranger? Something in his voice sounded sincere. And if he really was the restaurant owner, maybe this was her chance to be heard. She opened the door but kept the security chain on. Through the small gap, she studied the man's face. "May I show you my ID?" he asked, pulling out his wallet. He showed her his driver's license. The name matched, Raymond Wilson. "I also have this," he said, showing her a business card and some papers with the La Crystal logo. Tiana closed the door, removed the chain, and opened it again. "Mr. Wilson," she said, "I'm going to be late for work." "I understand," Raymond said. "I won't take much of your time. May I come in for just a few minutes?" Tiana thought about it. This was unexpected and strange, but something told her to hear him out. "5 minutes," she said, stepping aside to let him in. Raymond entered her small living room and looked around respectfully. He didn't sit down. "Ms. Jackson, I received some disturbing news this morning. I just got back from a business trip late last night, and I had several urgent messages waiting for me. One was from Martin and Sophia Reeves." "They work fast," Tiana said. "They're good people," Raymond replied. "They told me what happened to you at my restaurant. They also sent me security camera footage." "There were cameras?" Tiana asked, surprised. Raymond nodded. "Every inch of the restaurant is recorded. For safety. I watched what happened to you this morning." His face darkened with anger. "And I am deeply, deeply sorry." Tiana stood still, watching Raymond's face. His apologies seemed real. His eyes showed shame and anger. But Tiana had heard sorry before. Sorry didn't fix things. Sorry didn't change how she felt last night. "I appreciate you coming here," Tiana said carefully, "but I need to get to work." "Of course," Raymond said quickly. "But please, let me explain something first." He took a deep breath. "This isn't the first time this has happened at my restaurant." Tiana wasn't surprised. Sophia and Martin mentioned that. Raymond nodded. "I've been away for 3 months. My sister was sick in another state, and I went to help her. I left the restaurant in the hands of James Peterson, the manager you met last night, the one who told me to find somewhere more suitable." Tiana asked, the hurt still fresh. "Yes," Raymond said, his jaw tight. "When I left, La Crystal was a place that welcomed everyone. That was my dream when I opened it. My mother was a black woman who loved good food but was turned away from fancy restaurants all her life. I promised her I would create a place where no one felt unwelcome." Tiana didn't know what to say. This wasn't what she expected. While I was gone, Raymond continued. Things changed. James started turning people away. Not all people, just certain people. I've received complaints, but nothing as clear as what happened to you. "So, why are you here?" Tiana asked. Raymond's eyes met hers. 2 reasons. First, to personally apologize for how you were treated. What happened to you was wrong, and it happened in my restaurant, under my name. Second, I need your help. My help. Tiana was confused. Yes, I fired James this morning, but that's not enough. The damage is done. People have been hurt. The staff has learned bad habits. I need to fix my restaurant, and I need to make things right. Tiana looked at her watch. She was going to be late. "Mr. Wilson, this is a lot to take in. What exactly do you want from me?" Raymond reached into his pocket and pulled out an envelope. "This is a check for $5,000. It's not a bribe or a way to buy your silence. It's compensation for the pain you experienced. You can take it and never think about me or my restaurant again. I would understand." He placed the envelope on her coffee table. "Or you can help me make real change. I want to completely rebuild how my restaurant works. New training, new policies, new staff if needed. I want your input on how to make sure no one ever feels the way you felt last night." Tiana stared at the envelope. $5,000 was a lot of money. She could use it for so many things, but something about Raymond's words made her pause. "And why should I help you?" she asked. "Why not just take the money and move on?" "Because," Raymond said quietly, "you have a voice that needs to be heard. And because what happened to you isn't just about one night or one restaurant. It's happening all over. Maybe together we can start something that makes a real difference." Tiana thought about all the times she had been followed in stores, or had people cross the street when they saw her coming, or had been passed over for promotions despite working harder than everyone else. One restaurant wouldn't fix all that. "I need to think about it," she said finally. Raymond nodded and placed his business card next to the envelope. "Take all the time you need. And one more thing. There's a community meeting tonight at the Riverside Center. People are gathering to talk about discrimination in local businesses. Martin and Sophia will be there. So will I. It starts at 7 p.m. He turned to leave but stopped at the door. "Whether you come or not, whether you help me or not, I want you to know that you will always be welcome at my restaurant, and James will never work there again. That's a promise." Tiana arrived at work 30 minutes late. She quickly explained to her boss that she had an unexpected visitor that morning. Her boss, Mrs. Chen, was understanding. Tiana had never been late before and always stayed late when needed. But Tiana couldn't focus on work. Her mind kept going back to Raymond Wilson and his offer. The envelope with the check sat untouched in her purse. $5,000. It was almost 3 months of rent. It was a new computer, new clothes, maybe even a short vacation. But it also felt like a way to make her problem go away quietly. During lunch break, Tiana called her mother. "Baby, take the money," her mother said after hearing the story. "People like that don't change. They just want to look good." "But what if he really wants to make things better?" Tiana asked. Her mother sighed. "You always want to see the good in people. That's why I worry about you." After work, Tiana sat in her car for a long time. It was 6:30 p.m. The community meeting would start in 30 minutes. She hadn't decided if she would go. Part of her wanted to just cash the check and forget the whole thing happened. Another part of her remembered the burning shame she felt when the manager told her to leave. At 6:45 p.m., Tiana started her car and began driving. She wasn't sure where she was going until she turned onto Riverside Drive. The community center was a large brick building with a small parking lot. It was already full of cars. Tiana had to park on the street half a block away. She walked slowly toward the building. Through the windows, she could see that the meeting room was packed. People stood along the walls because all the chairs were taken. Tiana hesitated at the door. Maybe this was a mistake. What difference could she really make? As she turned to leave, a voice called out, "Tiana." It was Sophia, hurrying across the parking lot. "You came. I'm so glad." Before Tiana could respond, Sophia took her arm and led her inside. The room was warm from so many bodies packed together. At least 50 people filled the space. Some faces Tiana recognized from around town. Others were strangers. At the front of the room stood Raymond Wilson, talking with Martin, and an older woman Tiana didn't know. When Raymond saw Tiana, relief spread across his face. He walked over quickly. "You came," he said simply. "I haven't decided anything yet," Tiana warned him. "I just wanted to see what this is about." Raymond nodded. "That's fair. Let me introduce you to some people." Over the next few minutes, Tiana met people with stories like hers. There was Mr. Johnson, an older man who was made to wait 2 hours for a table at another fancy restaurant, while others were seated right away. There was Maria, a young Hispanic woman who was told her credit card was declined, even though she had plenty of money in her account. There was Dr. Patel, who was asked if he was in the right place when he tried to enter an exclusive country club where he was a member. Each story made Tiana's heart beat faster. These weren't just random incidents. This was a pattern, and it wasn't just happening at La Crystal. "Everyone, please take your seats," called the older woman Tiana had seen talking with Raymond. "My name is Eleanor Washington. I'm the head of the city's Civil Rights Commission. Thank you all for coming tonight." The room grew quiet. Eleanor continued, "We are here because discrimination is happening in our city. It's happening at restaurants, at stores, at clubs, and at workplaces, and it's time we did something about it." Tiana found herself nodding along with many others in the room. She took an empty seat near the back. Maybe she was supposed to be here after all. Eleanor Washington stood tall at the front of the room. Her gray hair was pulled back in a neat bun, and she wore a simple blue suit. Though she looked to be in her 70s, her voice was strong and clear. "For 30 years, I've fought for equal treatment in this city," Eleanor said. "We've made progress, but what I'm hearing these days takes me back to the 1960s. People being turned away because of how they look or the color of their skin." People around the room nodded. Some called out in agreement. "Tonight," Eleanor continued, "we have someone special with us. Raymond Wilson owns La Crystal, one of the fanciest restaurants in town. Unlike most business owners, he's here to listen and make changes. Raymond, would you like to say a few words?" Raymond walked to the front of the room. He looked nervous. Tiana watched him carefully. "Thank you for having me," Raymond began. "I opened La Crystal 15 years ago with a simple dream. I wanted to create a place where everyone would feel welcome to enjoy good food. My mother was a black woman who loved fine dining, but was often made to feel unwelcome at nice restaurants." He paused, his voice shaking slightly. "While I was away caring for my sick sister, my restaurant became the very thing my mother hated. For that, I am deeply sorry." A man in the crowd stood up. "Sorry doesn't help the people who were hurt." Others voiced their agreement. The room grew loud with angry voices. Raymond stood still, taking the criticism. Eleanor raised her hands for quiet. "Let's remember why we're here. We want change, not just anger. Raymond is trying to make things right. That's why I'm here," Raymond said when the room quieted down. "I want to listen. I want to learn. And I want to work with you to create real changes, not just at my restaurant, but across the city." A woman near Tiana spoke up. "What kind of changes are you talking about?" "First," Raymond said, "I've already fired the manager who was turning people away. But that's not enough. I need to retrain all my staff. I need to change how we take reservations, how we greet guests, how we handle complaints." He looked around the room. "And I'd like to form a community advisory group to help guide these changes and hold me accountable." Sophia stood up. Raymond has also agreed to let us write about what happened in our magazine column. No hiding, no excuses. Eleanor nodded with approval. This is how change happens, one business at a time, one person at a time. She turned to the crowd. Now I want to hear from someone who experienced this discrimination firsthand. Just yesterday, a young woman was turned away from La Crystal despite having a reservation. Tiana Jackson, would you be willing to share your story? All eyes turned to Tiana. Her heart jumped in her chest. She hadn't expected to be called on. She didn't like speaking in front of crowds. But looking around the room, she saw faces that understood her pain. Faces that had been through the same thing. Slowly, Tiana stood up. Her legs felt shaky, but her voice came out strong. Last night, I went to La Crystal to celebrate my promotion, she began. I had a reservation. I had saved up for months. But the moment I walked in, I could tell something was wrong. As Tiana told her story, the room grew quiet. People listened closely. Some nodded in understanding. Others looked angry on her behalf. When she described how the manager had told her to find somewhere more suitable, several people gasped. The worst part wasn't just being turned away, Tiana said, her voice growing stronger. It was feeling like I didn't belong. Like no matter how hard I worked or how much money I saved, some doors would always be closed to me. When she finished speaking, the room erupted in applause. People stood up, clapping and calling out support. Tiana felt something warm grow inside her chest. For the first time since the incident, she didn't feel alone. After the meeting ended, many people came up to Tiana. They thanked her for speaking. Some shared their own stories. Tiana felt something changing inside her. The hurt was still there, but now there was also a new feeling, a feeling that maybe her voice mattered. Raymond approached her as the crowd thinned. "Thank you," he said simply. "Your words were powerful." Eleanor Washington joined them, her kind eyes studying Tiana. "Young lady, we need people like you on our committee, people who can speak truth clearly." Tiana looked surprised. "What committee?" "We're forming a group to work with businesses in town," Eleanor explained, "to help them learn how to treat all customers fairly. Raymond has agreed that La Crystal will be our first project." Raymond nodded. "I meant what I said. I want my restaurant to lead by example, show other businesses that change is possible." Tiana thought about her job, her busy schedule, and her mother's warning. Getting involved would take time and energy. It might even bring more trouble. But the faces of everyone who had shared their stories tonight stayed in her mind. "I'll help," she said finally. "But I need to be honest about something." She reached into her purse and pulled out the envelope Raymond had given her that morning. "I haven't cashed this check yet, and I won't." Raymond started to protest, but Tiana held up her hand. "If I take this money, it feels like you're paying me to go away," Tiana explained. "That's not what I want. I want real change." Eleanor smiled proudly. "Good for you." Raymond looked thoughtful. "What if we put that money towards something else? Maybe a training program or a scholarship?" Eleanor's eyes lit up. "A scholarship is a wonderful idea. For young people from communities that face discrimination." "The La Crystal Scholarship," Raymond said, nodding. "We could make it bigger than just this check. My restaurant could fund it every year." Tiana felt a smile spread across her face. Now that's something I could support. Before they left, the three of them made plans to meet again in 2 days. Raymond wanted Tiana to see the changes he had already started at the restaurant. Eleanor would bring paperwork to make their committee official. As Tiana walked to her car, Sophia and Martin caught up with her. "You were amazing in there," Sophia said, giving Tiana a quick hug. "We're publishing the story in next week's magazine," Martin added. "With your permission, we'd like to use your name and quote you." Tiana thought about it. Having her name in a magazine story might bring attention she didn't want. People at work might ask questions. Strangers might recognize her. But staying quiet hadn't helped change things before. "Yes," she said firmly. Use my name. Tell the whole story. Driving home that night, Tiana felt different. Just 2 days ago, she had been excited about a simple dinner to celebrate her promotion. Now she was part of something much bigger. When she got home, she called her mother. I didn't take the money, Tiana said after explaining everything. Her mother was quiet for a moment. Are you sure about getting involved in this, baby? People don't always like those who speak up. I'm sure, Mom, Tiana said. Remember how you always told me that staying quiet doesn't fix anything? Well, I'm done being quiet. There was a long pause. Then her mother said softly, Your grandmother would be so proud of you right now. So am I. Tiana felt tears in her eyes as she said goodnight. She set her alarm for the next morning and laid out her clothes. Tomorrow would be a regular work day. But in 2 days, she would walk back into La Crystal, not as a customer being turned away, but as someone helping to change it from the inside. 2 days later, Tiana stood outside La Crystal again. This time felt different. She wasn't here as a customer hoping for a nice meal. She was here as part of a team working to make real change. Eleanor Washington stood beside her, a folder of papers tucked under her arm. Ready? She asked with a gentle smile. Tiana took a deep breath and nodded. As they walked toward the door, Tiana felt her heart beat faster. The last time she was here, she had been told to leave. The memory still stung. But when they entered, everything looked different. The host at the front desk was a young black woman with a warm smile. Good afternoon, she said. Welcome to La Crystal. Do you have a reservation? We're here to meet Raymond Wilson, Eleanor explained. Of course, Mr. Wilson is expecting you. Please follow me. As they walked through the restaurant, Tiana noticed other changes. The staff was more diverse than before. There were people of different races and ages working at all levels. The customers, too, seemed more varied. Raymond was waiting for them in a private dining room at the back. The table was set with water glasses and notepads. A large board on the wall had the words, La Crystal Transformation Plan, written at the top. Thank you both for coming, Raymond said, standing to greet them. Tiana, I know this might not be easy for you, coming back here. It's strange, Tiana admitted, but I'm glad to see things already changing. Raymond nodded. I've been busy. I hired a new host team. I brought back some staff who quit because they didn't like how James was running things, and I've been interviewing everyone who works here to find out what was really happening. What did you learn? Eleanor asked. Raymond's face darkened. It was worse than I thought. James had a system. He would tell the hosts to say there were no tables for certain people, mostly Black and Hispanic customers. If they pushed back, he would step in and turn them away himself. And no one said anything? Tiana asked. Some did, Raymond said, and they were fired or had their hours cut. Others were afraid to speak up. A few quit in protest. Tiana shook her head, imagining how many people had been hurt by this policy. But that's in the past now, Raymond continued with determination. I've already started new training for everyone, and I want your help to make sure we're doing it right. For the next 2 hours, they worked on plans. Eleanor shared ideas from other businesses that had made successful changes. Tiana talked about how it felt to be turned away and what would have made the experience better, even if there truly had been no tables available. Raymond took pages of notes. He asked questions and listened carefully to their answers. I've been thinking about the scholarship too, he said as they were finishing up. What if we make it bigger? I could donate 5% of the restaurant's profits each year. That would be wonderful, Eleanor said. We could help several students. And Raymond added, looking at Tiana, I'd like you to be on the committee that chooses the recipients. Tiana was surprised. Me? Why? Because you didn't take the easy path, Raymond said. You could have taken the money and walked away. Instead, you chose to help make things better for everyone. As they stood to leave, a knock came at the door. It was Martin and Sophia. Sorry to interrupt, Martin said, But we wanted to show you this before it goes to print tomorrow." Sophia handed them copies of their magazine article. The headline read, "Exclusive: How Discrimination at Top Restaurant Led to Citywide Change Movement." Tiana saw her name in the first paragraph. Her story was right there in black and white for everyone to read. It was scary, but it also felt right. "This is just the beginning," Ellinger said, reading over Tiana's shoulder. "People will read this and know they're not alone. They'll know someone is fighting for them." 1 year later, Tiana stood at the front of a packed room at La Crystal. The restaurant looked beautiful. Soft lights made everything glow. Flowers sat on every table. A large banner hung on the wall that read First Annual La Crystal Scholarship Awards. Tiana wore a new blue dress, even nicer than the one she had worn that first night. But this time, she wasn't a guest hoping to be allowed in. She was the main speaker. "Welcome, everyone," Tiana said into the microphone. Her voice was strong and clear. "1 year ago, I was told I didn't belong in this restaurant. Today, I'm helping 5 young students pay for college through our new scholarship program." The crowd clapped loudly. Tiana saw her mother in the front row, tears in her eyes. Next to her sat Eleanor Washington, nodding proudly. "Change is possible," Tiana continued. "Not just here, but everywhere." In the past year, our committee has worked with 15 businesses across the city. All of them have made their spaces more welcoming for everyone. Raymond stood nearby, smiling. His restaurant had become an example for others. When Sophia and Martin's article came out, the story spread quickly. Local TV news picked it up, then national websites. Soon, other restaurant owners were calling Raymond, asking for advice on how to do better. "Now it's my honor to introduce our 5 scholarship winners," Tiana said. "These young people faced challenges but never gave up. They will use these funds to study business, law, medicine, and education. Maybe someday they'll stand here telling their own stories of change." One by one, the students came forward. Each received a certificate and a check for $10,000. The crowd cheered for each student. Cameras flashed. This was a big moment for everyone. After the ceremony, people enjoyed food and drinks. Tiana moved through the crowd, talking and laughing with guests. She had become good at public speaking over the past year. The committee work had given her new confidence. At her job, she had been promoted again. Her boss said her community leadership had impressed everyone. Raymond found Tiana near the dessert table. "Can you believe it's been a year?" he asked. "Sometimes it feels like yesterday," Tiana said. "Sometimes it feels like a lifetime ago." "I wanted to tell you something," Raymond said. 3 other restaurant owners in town have started their own scholarship programs. They called me this week to ask how to set them up." Tiana smiled. "That's wonderful news." "And there's more," Raymond added. "The city council is voting next month on a new law. If it passes, all businesses will need to have anti-discrimination training. Ellinger says it's likely to pass." Martin and Sophia approached with a tall man in a suit. "Tiana," Martin said, "this is Robert Chen from the State Business Association. He's interested in taking our program statewide." As they talked, Tiana felt a tap on her shoulder. She turned to see her mother. "I'm so proud of you," her mother said, hugging her tight. "You turned something bad into something good for so many people." Later that night, as the event was ending, Tiana stood alone for a moment near the front door of La Crystal. She remembered standing in this exact spot a year ago, feeling the sting of rejection. That pain had led to purpose. Outside, she could see the black SUV that had brought Raymond to her door that morning. The car that had changed everything. As Tiana watched, a young woman walked up to the restaurant. She looked nervous, checking her clothes, taking a deep breath before reaching for the door. The host greeted her with a warm smile and led her inside. No questions, no looks, just welcome. Tiana smiled to herself. This was what success looked like. not just the scholarships or the news stories or the policy changes. Success was that young woman walking into the restaurant without fear, knowing she belonged there just as much as anyone else. The work wasn't over. There would always be more to do. But tonight, in this moment, Tiana allowed herself to feel the simple joy of progress.